All America, all the time. Sit down, buckle up, and get ready for The Dan Bongino Show.
Folks, something absolutely magical happened last night. And no, I'm not talking about, the Seahawks defensive performance or anything like that. I'm still on kind of an NFL hangover from the whole, debacle with Kaepernick and all of that. But something magical happened last night, and I don't want you to kind of undersell it in your own cerebral cortex. What Turning Point USA did yesterday with the halftime show, make no mistake, was a complete cultural revolution. I'm not going to spend the whole show today talking about this because you're going to see a lot of it on other shows and elsewhere, and I got a ton of stuff to talk about. You saw there was another Epstein document dump yesterday that people have been going through. Also, Elon Musk's got a really important message out there on censorship and this DSA thing that's going on in Europe. I'm very concerned about this coming here and really just disrupting the free speech environment in the United States completely and then making the concrete harden. So I've got a lot to get to. But what happened yesterday was a complete cultural shift. It was a seismic event, like a punctuated equilibrium type event for technology, for free speech, for the pro-America crowd that's been crapped on for years by these entertainment organizations. Absolutely huge. All right, I'll get to that. And a big thank you. Last week was amazing. Guys, 8 million views. And ladies out there, never like to leave you out. 8 million views last week on Rumble. We added tens of thousands of new subs at rumble.com/Bongino. We're trending number 1 on Spotify for 7 straight days. Thanks to you. I so deeply appreciate it. I will never, ever take you for granted. It's been an honor both to serve you over there in D.C. and back here on the microphone. I appreciate it. Let's get to today's show. Today's show brought to you by Brick House Nutrition. Folks, they've been with me forever. I lost a lot of weight myself. I was getting a little gooey as I was getting older. I've told you the story. You can go look at the old Rumble videos. We were back in the apartment. Remember that, Guy? Back sitting up there in the apartment and these poor guys like working in this cramped little space. But I was about 238 and my joints were getting beaten up. I never really minded so much, but my knees were starting to bother me. So I had to lose weight. Spoke to Miles. I said, hey, you got something? He said, hey, try Lean. Lean's an amazing weight loss product. You know how those weight loss injections work? They help control blood sugar and they shut down appetite. So you eat less. There's really no fancy mechanism behind them. It's not a mystery. That's what Lean was created to do. Lean, Lean. Paula uses it. I use it. Helps me maintain a good, stable body weight for my joints and for my health. It replicates the benefits of weight loss injections without the injections and needles. Lean, Lean, was formulated by doctors to support healthy blood sugar and help reduce the spikes and crashes that drive that nonstop, out-of-control snacking and craving, which leads to weight problems. Lean goes a step further. Lean helps your body turn fat into energy so you burn it instead of storing it. No prescriptions, no needles. Here's how you get it. Go to brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan, my first name, to get 20% off. brickhousenutrition.com/Dan. Use promo code Dan to get 20% off. I love the product. I've used it. These statements of products have not been evaluated by the FDA. The product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease. It's not a substitute or alternative for care from a healthcare provider. On this Monday morning, after the big game yesterday, let's go. So Turning Point did something absolutely magical, as I said. Ladies and gentlemen, they basically beat the NFL. Okay, maybe they didn't have, I think the Super Bowl estimate, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat room if you saw it, but I think the estimate of viewers was something in the neighborhood of 120 plus million, which is ridiculous. I mean, there's no event on television, cable, streaming that's ever going to beat the Super Bowl in the number of raw viewers. That's just not going to happen. However, when Turning Point first announced this alternative halftime show, because Sad Bunny was the performer announced for the NFL, guy who's like Ice Out and all this other lefty crap that good, hardworking Americans, they just want to watch a freaking football game. They don't need a political message from some performer who has no freaking idea what they're talking about. Bro, like seriously, just sing or rap or do your thing or whatever, man. Like, you got a political statement to make, go vote. Nobody really gives a shit about your opinion. I'm sorry. So they picked Sad Bunny. I got to tell you something. I I didn't know a single damn song by Sad Bunny. I heard that. Did you hear the Gasolina song? I've heard that song. I thought that was Pitbull. I didn't even know that was Sad Bunny. So I'm listening to this. The guy's doing his thing. I'm like, this show just sucks. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. A bunch of friends of mine messaged me this morning, and they said, hey, Dan, a lot of my conservative friends like this guy. Great. I'm not telling you not to like him. It's a constitutional republic. Like who you want. I'm just telling you, I sat there with my youngest daughter and my wife. My wife happens to be from Colombia and a native Spanish speaker as well, who was like, why is this guy rapping in Spanish? It's an English-speaking country and an English-speaking audience. I just didn't like it. Whatever. You do you. I'm not going to spend the whole show about it because there's more important stuff. The Turning Point show racked up something like 6 million streams on YouTube. On Rumble, it had probably, I don't know, across the multiple channels. I know Real America's Voice and the Turning Point channel and Charlie's channel. They racked up numbers that are just unheard of. Folks, I am an investor in this business. I'm a streamer in this business. Here is a chart of the top live streams, things sent over the internet for public consumption we've ever seen. Turning Point is now at number 3 at an estimated 6.1 million concurrent views. I actually think it was probably more than that. This may turn out to be the second or maybe first most watched stream ever, as in ever happen. I mean, this is a cataclysmic shift in American culture because nobody, folks, listen to me, nobody takes on the NFL and wins. Nobody except Turning Point. When I had my show on Fox, you forget about taking on the NFL. You don't even take on college football. My show on Fox was originally on at 10 p.m. unfiltered, and then it was on at 9. And sometimes, I remember the Iron Bowl one year, it went late. They went into a couple overtimes, and it wound up bleeding into my show. And you can see the viewership of the show go right up the minute college football ends. Why? People love their football. Forget about taking on the NFL. Turning Point did it and won. How the hell do you get that many streams? That is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I told a bunch of people this thing is going to be huge. And I mean, it wasn't some like Stygian witches, give me the eye. I mean, any genius, any non-genius could have seen it. This thing was even bigger than my expectations are huge. I told a friend of mine, they'll get 500,000 streamers. And that, folks, I'm not messing with you. In my head, that's a monster number. On election night, what did we do, Guy, on election night? It was like 505,000? 505,000. It was like one of the top 5 streams of the year. They did 6.1 million. I need you to understand that the magnitude of that. Here's 2 things I want you to remember why this is a shift going forward, outside of just the well-deserved praise from TPUSA for that. Number 1, I've told you over and over, folks, you are the media now. I'm not kidding. It's not a joke. It's not bullshit. It's not Dan Bongino sitting there patting you on the head, telling you how great you are. It's true. You guys and ladies are the media now. The media is entirely fragmented now, and you have a choice. You choose to be here on a Monday morning. You choose to make us one of the top live streams in the world. You don't have to be here. It's not a cable channel where you're stuck watching who's ever on if you like the channel but you don't like the host. You don't have to be here. You chose to tune in last night in this fragmented media environment to a pro-America halftime show that I promise you is going to send seismic ripples through the entire media entertainment space. I promise you. You don't think there's NFL folks sitting down right now, bean counters going, holy shnikes, man, what the hell just happened? This is what happens when you pick Sad Bunny. Another thing happened too. Don't ever forget this either. I've addressed this repeatedly, multiple times on my show throughout the years. More for me being kind of an investor in the space. The problem live streaming's had from the start is the 2-button problem. Your folks are used to cable. Hit the power button, it's on your favorite channel. You have to do nothing. 1 button, 1 press, that's it. 1 button. That's not a problem. Everybody's used to it. Streaming has a 2-button problem. You got to turn the TV on. You got to go find an app. It's not hard, but you have to be walked through it a couple times. Typically, the younger folks know what they're doing, but a lot of us who grew up with the one button problem, or the one button non-problem, have the two button problem. People are now figuring it out. It's not hard. It's not complicated. People are figuring it out. They're figuring out how to go to Rumble, how to go to Twitch, how to go to all these other platforms and watch stuff, how to go to X, how to go to YouTube. They're figuring it out. And that's why millions of people last night sent an earthquake through the entire entertainment system last night and won. Look at this poll on TMZ. TMZ put a poll out. I bet they were expecting a different result. Who did TMZ, not some like huge conservative outlet. Hey, who did you prefer for the halftime show, Sad Bunny or Kid Rock? Look, Kid Rock, 66.8%, Sad Bunny, 33.2%. It was even worse last night. It was like 80-20. I guess the liberals got wind of it and still trying to take the poll back. 278,000 votes, by the way, not a small sample size. Here's Andrew Colvett on Brian Kilmeade's show last night after the show, after the halftime show. He's one of the folks over there with Turning Point, helped since the tragic murder of Charlie, helped transition a Turning Point into the activist organization. It was always it was and wants to keep it going. And here he was last night on Kilmeade's show talking about the, again, earthquake last night of TPUSA's halftime show. Check this out.
Andrew, I watched your show. It was great. How did you do? Do you have a sense of how many people watched?
Yeah, it was kind of blew our minds actually a little bit, Brian. And we saw at one point across all the different social channels, we saw over 10 million concurrent views. So that was adding up all of Rumble and all of our partners just on the social side. So, and now the numbers keep trickling in. I mean, right now as I'm sitting here, YouTube's numbers keep updating. And so we're trying to put it all together. What I can safely say is that we are now over 20 million viewers across just social. So we haven't even gotten our partner broadcasters, their analytics. As you know, sometimes the ratings take a little while, but that's 20 million viewers. And we don't know how many people were gathered together, 3, 4, 10 in a room watching together. So we're going to try and put a final number on that when we can. What we can safely say is over 20 million Americans tuned in to the All-American halftime show tonight.
20 million? That's freaking ridiculous. That is insane. Again, we, for a long time, were the #1 live stream show in the world, and we've always been a top 5 show. I mean, for politics. We've been a top 5 show forever. It's not a pat on the back. It's just true. Our biggest audience was 505,000. Not million. Incredible. Amazing job, guys. Really. And now I hear they're going to do it every year, giving people a pro-America alternative to the NFL. And I'm telling you, the NFL had better pay attention. Great job. Elbow's a little sore this morning. I was putting on a shirt the other day. My elbow snapped back, and it is like killing me this morning. I had to take an Advil when I got up. I'm like, what the hell? This is getting old. My father says it ain't for the young. Sucks. What? Oh, gosh, I know. I don't even want to. There's 7 today for Nikki. I don't know. She's like, I wonder if she's like. Hey, as it turns out, we got some really important news to discuss, too. So much happened on Friday. Was another big, huge Trump administration victory. They never, ever forgot about the tragedy in Benghazi. You saw the FTOC, foreign transfer to custody, where we pulled al-Bakush out of a foreign country, one of the folks alleged to have been involved in the attack on the special mission complex and embassy in Benghazi. It turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that yes, as the AG said, it does make a difference. What was she referring to? I don't want you all to ever forget this. This was Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, former First Lady, when asked a question about Benghazi. Don't ever forget this. Tattoo this on your brain. Here's how she felt about Benghazi. And President Trump said, no. It does make a difference. Check this out.
The fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
And I want you to remember when that went down, the lefties all celebrating her as some kind of a hero. Look at her. She told those guys, what difference does it make? 4 Americans were murdered. Are you freaking insane? What difference? And the lefties loved that. They thought it was the greatest clip ever. I don't want you to ever forget this stuff. And no one ever did. We were involved in this from day one, week one. How do we get this guy back? Here was Obama. What was this on Letterman? He's on a late night show. Listen, now that I've kind of again seen how this sausage is made on the inside, there is no way Obama believed that this was all due to some video, a bunch of angry people over there watching. He made this whole story up and he knew it. Here he was on Letterman's show talking about blaming it on a video because they knew they had royally effed up in this Benghazi tragedy. Check this out.
The ambassador to Libya killed in an attack on the consulate in Benghazi.
Right.
Is this an act of war? Are we at war now?
No.
What happens here?
Well, here's what happened. You had a video that was released by somebody who lives here, sort of a shadowy character who is an extremely offensive video directed at Muhammad and Islam.
Making fun of the Prophet Muhammad.
Making fun of the Prophet Muhammad. And so this caused great offense in much of the Muslim world. But what also happened was extremists and terrorists used this as an excuse to attack a variety of our embassies, including the consulate in Libya. And the irony is the ambassador, Chris Stevens, he was the person who was first in Libya and helped to advise us in liberating Libya from Muammar Gaddafi, the former dictator there. And as offensive as this video was, and obviously we've denounced it and the United States government had nothing to do with it, that's never an excuse for violence.
This is what's called gaslighting, framing, and narrative building. It was all bullshit all the time. They knew exactly what happened there. They provided inadequate security. This tragedy happened, and instead of just fessing up to it, what did they do? Let's try to blame this guy with the video. It was always bullshit. Thankfully, you got a president in charge right now you're in the find out stage. This president is barely a year into his presidency. And folks, listen to me. I don't want you to ever think that I'm having this Pollyanna-ish view of the world. The president's dealing with a lot. Are there things that can be done better? There are always things that can be done better. However, the drum roll of successes he's had over the past years are just undeniable. That the hard reality is nobody had gotten al-Bakush until the president got in office. They hadn't. What was it, a lack of interest? I don't know. But results matter. And this president was like, go get him. And they did. No one else did. Because he wasn't in bracelets and handcuffs. Here's Mark Thiessen putting out a tweet on this. Again, a lot of folks forgot about Abbeygate. He's done so much, the president, that it all gets lost sometimes in the wash. First, Trump got the terrorists behind the Abbeygate bombing. It was Sharifullah. Now he's got the terrorists behind Benghazi. Just incredible. And I mean, listen, he's not a huge pro-tree. He's a pretty down-the-middle guy. These are just realistic assessments of what the president has done versus other folks who have been in leadership positions in the cabinet and in the presidency before. Spaghetti brains Biden, and they just didn't do it. Folks, this POTUS, this president of the United States, is absolutely not effing around. You know, if you go back to some of my shows, one of you guys got to pull this one time. I used to do this clip all the time before the election. Remember when do you guys remember we used to chat about this, how one of the big criticisms, against President Trump running for the second time, in his 47th term, not 2020, but running for the third time. But you get what I'm saying, for his second term. One of the big criticisms was, well, why would we elect him? He's going to be a lame duck the minute he gets into office. Do you remember that? And do you remember what my take was? I said, you guys are reading this all wrong. The best thing about this second term is there's no pressure for him to run for re-election, and he can do what he needs to do without having to worry about people pulling and tugging on him in every different direction. He is going to do it, and this is going to be, after he learned a lot of things in 45 in that term, this is going to be the most transformative presidency of your lifetime. And it turns out it's true. The guy's never changed, though. He was always like this. I saw this on X. I pulled this cut. This was Donald Trump decades ago on Oprah's show. Remember Oprah Winfrey? It's like the biggest show ever. Oprah Winfrey. Everybody watched Oprah. Everybody watched Oprah. This was Donald Trump on Oprah Winfrey show. I want you to listen to him. Before he ran for president, he is the exact same FO guy now he was back then. Absolutely nothing has changed. The consistency is remarkable. Check this out.
Last year, criticizing U.S. foreign policy. What would you do differently, Donald?
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not. But I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, you know, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
Folks, this speech could have been given yesterday. It's the exact same. If you age him a little bit, like using your AI, and you age his voice a little bit, it's the exact same speech he's given about foreign trade, how he really appreciates the citizens of other countries, but he's America first. It's the same speech. He has never changed. Listen, bash him on whatever you want. It's your right as an American citizen, but at least be honest that he's been consistent throughout the years in this approach to foreign relations, diplomacy, and trade. Another drug boat, by the way. I told you this guy's the FO guy. He is not kidding around. Eric Doherty on Twitter put this up last week. I saw this, another drug boat taken out. Here it is. You can see it on the screen right now. If you're listening on Spotify and Apple, you can check it out at Eric L. Daw. Boom, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and President Trump just blew up another narco boat with 2 terrorists being taken out. Keep striking. We are reclaiming our hemisphere. Folks, I have absolutely no problem with these strikes at all. I don't. I know listen, I take shit about a lot of stuff. It's part of being in the public space. You don't like it, get out of the public space. It's okay. Criticism is part of the business. I have no problem with this at all. You know, when you get these briefings every morning about the number of Americans who are dying due to this illicit, horrendous poison, fentanyl, and not just fentanyl, but drugs filtering through our country, and these people who do it, and how this money is funding all these terror groups, these narco terror groups overseas. If this is what we got to do, then this is what we got to do. Believe me, they're thinking twice right now. And all this, liberal media hysteria about it, you don't see the same hysteria about how fentanyl deaths are now dropping, how the precursors have been listed. You don't see them pumping those stories. All they want to do is criticize. What's your freaking solution, man? More body bags? What's your solution? Listen, folks, the world is full, as I told you, of level 10 decisions. With level 10 decisions, I mentioned it on my opening show. When you're at government at that principal and deputy level, and even kind of the AD level, the assistant director and assistant secretary level, everything that gets to your desk is a level 10 decision. A level 10 decision, don't ever forget, is this. There are 2 decisions to make, the shitty one and the shittiest one. And you don't know which one it is. It's not obvious. If it was obvious, it would be a level 9 decision. Someone else would have made it. Trump is making these decisions every day. Do we let these people land with their narco boats? What do? Do we let more Americans die? Or do we take a stand and take these things out? You got one decision where you're engaged in kinetic action where people are going to have to die. Nobody wants people to die, but sometimes people die in war. The world is a really tough, shitty place sometimes. It's a beautiful place, but it's sometimes tough. He lives, Trump, his principles, and his cabinet in that tough world every day. The shittier decision, I believe, is to let them land and take their poison into the country to kill your kids. That's the shittier decision. None of this stuff is easy. This guy, this president, is dealing with this every single day. There are no easy decisions, man, none. I'm going to take a quick break. And this show, the design of this show is from the beginning has always been for our new listeners, and we got a lot of them. We had a lot of unique IPs, so we really appreciate you all tuning in. Rumble.com/Bongino. Subscribe if you could. We really appreciate it. It is free. It's good to have you all here, but the design of this show has always been to give you that lodestar for truth. Folks, we don't want to be first. We want to be right. And even when it's uncomfortable, you're going to hear the truth here. But I'm telling you now, friends don't let friends fall for liberal media bullshit. And I've got 3 or 4 stories out there right now in the ecosystem where they're trying to set the narrative and frame it, and I'm not going to let it happen because it's wrong. Involves a couple things. Trump's a racist again is back. A tweet by Mike Davis and more. So stay tuned. Hey, last year opened my eyes to a lot of things, but one thing I found really disturbing is there's so much infighting going on. One of the companies that have been with us from the beginning, they stand for these bedrock conservative principles, is our good friends at Patriot Mobile. PatriotMobile.com/Dan is a website. We all agree on freedom of speech, the right to life, 2A, the Second Amendment, supporting our military and first responders. We got to be focused on these things. They're really important. We got elections coming up. We've got to stay focused. There's one company that's been fighting for our rights and supported this program from the very beginning, and that's Patriot Mobile. Unlike other mobile providers, Patriot Mobile works on all three major networks. In fact, you can be on multiple networks on the same phone. More importantly, their customers enjoy priority service with the same or better quality as their old providers. Guy loves their customer service too. What was the guy's name? Guy, what was the guy's name you dealt with at Patriot Mobile? Milton? Milton's like a superstar. Milton, Patriot Mobile. Find Milton, promote him. Patriot Mobile's 100% U.S.-based customer service team makes switching fast and easy. Keep your number, keep your phone, or upgrade. Go to patriotmobile.com/Dan. Get a free month of service with the offer code Dan. This company's been fighting for things we all believe in for over a decade. Let's thank them by making the switch today. patriotmobile.com/Dan. That's patriotmobile.com/Dan. Thank you, Patriot Mobile. And our third sponsor today is Blackout Coffee. This is the cold brew. I love this stuff. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. It's good to have him back. You know I'm a big fan, although it's not much left in there. Been drinking it for a while now. Quick pause here because I want to tell you something about what we actually built together with a company I trust. Love them, Blackout Coffee. Longtime listeners know this. I've called Blackout Coffee the official coffee of the Bongino Army for years. Now we made it official with a collaboration roast. It's a Bongino Army roast. I saw, who was it, Anita, put a picture up of this. You're great. We love you, the queen in there. It's a medium dark roasted coffee for bold flavor and a heavy body. And amped up with some extra caffeine. I like it. Strong without being bitter. Powerful without compromise. I drink one every morning when I get up before I work out. I have the cold brew before the show, keep it on the desk. I love it. The taste is absolutely amazing. I like a bold coffee, so it's perfect for me. I don't put my name on things lightly. I drink the coffee every day. If it didn't meet my standards, it wouldn't exist, period. End of story. Blackout Coffee is American-owned, roasted right here in the USA. No corporate wokeness, just quality and values that actually align with the audience here. We really appreciate them supporting the show. Pick up a bag today. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino. You get 20% off of your first order when you use code Bongino. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Bongino, code Bongino. Thanks, guys, at Blackout Coffee. Always good to see you and enjoy it every single morning. So, as I say all the time, friends don't let friends fall for liberal media bullshit. All they do is framing and gaslighting, because what they want to do is they want a narrative to calcify, to the concrete to harden before the lie can be intercepted. They do it all the time. Now, I said in the beginning when I was talking about turning point that fragmentation of the media environments had a lot of positive benefits. You now have choices you didn't have. Folks, when I grew up, I'm not that old. I'm 51, but I'm old enough. You watched basically the local news in New York. We would watch NBC. It was, Chuck Scarborough was on, if I remember correctly, growing up. And CBS had Ernie and Astis. And you watched local news, and then you had a national news program, whether it was Cronkite, Jennings, or Brokaw, and everybody got the same liberal bullshit. You basically got it shoveled down your throat like oatmeal in the morning, okay? The fragmentation of media has given you a vast multitude of choices where you can go and find the truth. This show's one of them. There's a lot of other great shows out there too. I'm not the only one. But it's up to us to stop and intercept this football quickly. You saw this thing happen last week. I'm not even going to get into the whole thing ad nauseum here because you've seen it. But there was a video posted to the Trump social account. They took it down. And a video at the end auto-scrolled. It was not part of the initial video. So, of course, they went again, the media, with the Donald Trump's a racist and wokeness, and put up this tweet. All the people that fell for this on the Republican side, they rushed 5 minutes out. I am condemning this. Can you just give it a minute? Quote, the Obama 8 meme is a hoax. Trump posted a long election fraud clip at the end that auto-scrolled to a different video for a second. They pulled it down, over, end of story. Guys, ladies, out there in the media ecosystem, in the establishment, right, and everywhere else, you do not have to rush to X and Truth and all these social media microblogs within seconds of something happening. Remember, you don't have to be first. You just have to be right and condemn everything and say, listen, did they like it? No, they deleted it. End of story. It was over. With a mistake, they took it down. That's it. You don't have to rush out and be a mouthpiece for the left seconds after something happens before you even understand the context of what happened. They don't do this for us. Has anyone in the media on the left, by the way, anyone? And this isn't seconds later. This is now years later, like a decade later. Has anyone apologized for the Russia hoax? Has anyone apologized for covering for Biden's what appeared to be severe cognitive decline? Where are the apologies? The answer is they gave you the double-barreled middle finger. And yet you, within seconds, despite even understanding what's going on, are expected to come out and immediately condemn every single person who's a MAGA person. The Trump's a racist. Stop. Stop. Friends don't let friends do media bullshit. Here's another one. The great Mike Davis, huge supporter of this guy, been an amazing patriot and a voice for truth for a long time. Debunking another narrative out there. Here's the other one. So not first we had the Trump's a racist for the umpteenth thousandth time, by the way. Total bullshit. No one's done more to court the black community and voters than Donald Trump. Nobody. No, by the way, no one's got higher percentages of black and Hispanic and minority voters than Donald Trump either. So the numbers matter. Numbers matter to you or not? By the way, we got Congressman Byron Donalds coming up later in our second interview, Donald Trump being our first. It's been an amazing week so far, so stay tuned for that. But here's Mike Davis on this new media narrative out there. You may or may not have seen it. It didn't get a lot of traction, but still, it's time to intercept this football before it gets in the end zone and the narrative calcifies. The military's taken over the court system. Donald Trump, the fascist, strikes again. Here, Mike Davis is quote tweeting Josh Gerstein. It says, just in, despite moves by Trump to ease the surge in Minnesota, military lawyers have started taking over for civilian prosecutors in federal court there. More in playbook. I'll keep that up for a second, fellas. Oh my gosh. Guy, the juntas, military juntas. Justin, there's military tribunals going on right now. There's one outside in Stewart right now. They've got it. It's like Scarecrow in the Batman movies. Death by exile. You would think that by, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Well, thank you, MRDDMIA, Mike Davis on X, his handle, for decades. JAG attorneys have served in U.S. attorneys' offices as special assistant U.S. attorneys to help with backlogs of cases. They are woke, pain in the ass Biden AUSAs who illegally decide whether to prosecute criminals based on their political party. Folks, again, friends don't let friends do media bullshit. Don't let that one get anywhere. Here's another one. Scott Jennings, who does great work. He was on CNN last week. And the Democrats want this. Trump is trying to steal elections now. Donald Trump appeared on my show a week ago today. I want to thank him for doing that. he discussed the SAVE Act and getting a federal role in elections here to make sure we have some stable system of rules, okay? The media, of course, freaked out. Donald Trump, fascist, monarch, no King's Day, whatever. He's trying to steal elections. The Democrats have been talking about stolen elections forever. They are totally full of shit. Every election they've lost at the presidential level, they've accused someone of stealing it. They still think Al Gore beat George W. Bush. They still believe this. I lived through that one. I remember. I go into that story for days. Al Gore definitely won Florida. Al Gore was never ahead on a single vote count in Florida ever. Go look it up. Donald Trump stole with the Russians the 2016 election. These people are full of shit. They're the stolen elections party. And then when we point out obvious things, and I'll address this with Congressman Byron Donalds coming up in a little bit, the SAVE Act that would stop people from stealing elections, they freak out. So it's important you understand debunk this stuff. The Democrats are the party about hysterical stolen election narratives. They've been doing it forever. Check this out.
We talk a little bit about, people believing that elections have been stolen. It's not just 2020. A majority of Democrats in this country think the 2016 election was stolen, and I suspect a great many Democrats still think 2004 and 2000 were stolen as well. Majority of Democrats think the 2016 election was stolen.
What Ashley just said.
Poll after poll after
majority
poll.
of Democrats?
I've never heard
Dan,
that. Really? If you walked into a Democrat political dinner tonight and said Russia did not steal the election, you'd be thrown out.
Can I be clear?
Come on, guys.
I think it's really important.
The question differently.
Because how many Democratic dinners have you been at lately, Scott?
I look at a lot of polls. I'm just telling you, Democrats believe the 2016 election was stolen by Russia.
No, my friend.
And in 2000 and 2004, Democrats on the floor of the House tried to stop the electoral college.
Let me tell you, Russia did, in fact, interfere in the 2016 election. That is not a conspiracy. It is not a hoax.
Do you think that the election was illegitimate?
Scott, I didn't say it was illegitimate.
Because we didn't charge the Capitol.
It is a fact that Russia interfered in the 2016.
Everybody at this table knows a majority of Democrats think Russia stole the election.
Hang on a second.
That's right.
You can talk about that. All right. We'll try to get to the bottom of where Scott's getting his polling. And if Scott's right, if Scott's right on that polling, he's right on the polling, but we'll try to find it.
Yes, he was right on the polling. Folks, these people are full of shit. It's amazing that the CNN host there still goes back to the Russia hoax while simultaneously claiming that they're not the party of falsely claiming stolen elections. They're still going with this. You see why I put this in there, by the way? I try to do everything in order for a reason. Again, back to the video, Trump's a racist thing on Friday. Every Republican must immediately apologize. Abby, whatever her name is not only not apologizing, she's still going with the Russia hoax. There's the numbers right there. People still believe, people on the Democrat side, not sane people like you, and I thank the Lord, and I mean it every single day, for a brilliant audience who sees through this bullshit. People on the Democrat side and in the media still believe that the Russians helped Donald Trump steal the election. There is not a shred of evidence any of that's actually true. And I'm telling you, the only tidbit of stuff they flush into the media toilet bowl to get into the plumbing is absolute bullshit. And you're going to see it in a lot of these cases that we've been moving on. You're going to see it. All bullshit. That was the genesis of that tweet that I put out. What had shocked me to the core. That's what shocked me. I cannot believe what they had done. And thank God we got a team together on that. It's all BS. So while they were busy, by the way, Friday, demanding every single Republican, conservative commentator, talking head, opinion maker, Fox News, Newsmax, Breitbart, Daily Globe, everybody should condemn Donald Trump. I didn't hear a peep about this video. Now, I just want to be clear. The language in here is pretty terrible. So if you got kids, probably not the best thing to hear some racial slurs in here, but I think it's important you hear it. So I'm just letting you know in advance. That's why I'm setting you up. If you don't want your kids, you can hit if you're watching VOD, you can hit the advance button. You turn the volume down. This is a video taken out of Minnesota. And you're seeing a bunch of lunatics screaming at ICE agents, just doing their job, enforcing the laws we all agreed to through our representatives that we agreed to follow. I don't like Obamacare. It sucks. But sometimes not every law goes your way. It's not anarchy. And listen to the racial epithets in this. I want you to hear it. That's why I left it in. Where's the rush to condemn this? The answer is freaking nowhere. These people are full of crap. They don't mean any of it. They don't care about racism in America. They care about their political narrative du jour. Watch this.
What's your name? Are you some fucking hoes? You some fucking hoes! Oh, and you're black! What? Nigga, you're next! You're next, nigga! Look at you! What's your fucking mouth? I don't wanna watch shit! Fuck you! That's a shit! Fuck you! Shoot me, bitch! Fuck! You fucking serious? Fuck you! Fuck you! What the fuck?
Hat tips are important. That's Kim Katie USA via X. Where's the rush to condemn that? You heard the language. I don't even like leaving that in there. Where's the rush to condemn? The answer is nowhere. Nobody said squat about it on the left because they don't care. This is why I put out this weekend on my X account too. I'm at the Bongino if you're interested. Do not give an inch to these people, ever, ever. They are not genuine. They don't care. They're not interested in debating issues. They're interested in the acquisition and abuse of power. That is it. And you're seeing it now, by the way, not just here, but overseas as well. Folks, you know I have been passionate about freedom of speech for a long time. I was in the original, I think, dump of the Twitter files. They were trying to, before Elon took over, they were trying to silence me. Obviously, I've always invested in free speech technologies because I think it's really important. You know, we put out this money for these platforms. People go on these platforms and take shots at me. That's part of free speech, man. Get in the game. It's not all about like making anybody look good. It's about the free exchange of ideas. And then I get to respond. That's how free speech works. The Democrats don't believe that. Elon's company, X, and other companies as well. We've had this fight at Rumble many times. Chris over there, Rumble, the CEO, has fought this fight with foreign governments over and over. They cannot have free speech. They don't want the battle of ideas to happen. They want to censor people, push them into dark corners of the internet where no one gets to challenge anyone's ideas, and it just makes things worse. It never makes it better ever. Censorship is not the answer. It's never been the answer. Here's what's happening with it. You know what? Put the Wall Street Journal thing up first, Keith. And excuse me. And then we'll go to the cut by Elon because this is important. They have this abomination of a piece of legislation in Europe. Please, I know this isn't the sexiest topic in the world, but it is super important. It's like when I used to talk about negative interest rates. I know it doesn't like set people's antenna on fire. This Digital Services Act in the European Union, ladies and gentlemen, will lead to the end of free speech. The Wall Street Journal had a piece on it, the EU's secret assault on free speech, Megan Jacobson. They can now bring fines in the EU for any allegations of, quote, hate speech or misinformation. Now, they get to categorize what that is. And with it comes, quote, the threat of financial ruin. Though the fines in this case came to a mere 120 million euros, the commission based that figure on X's revenue, not on X's revenue, but on that of Mr. Musk and all legal entities directly or controlled by him. That means a single future fine to Elon could be north of $6 billion or more than 200% of X's reported annual revenue. Do you see what they're doing here? This is a massive strike against free speech via the threat of financial ruin for any company out there that puts out what they call hate speech or misinformation. And here's the kick in the balls. They get to describe what hate speech and misinformation is. And I promise you, it's never going to be anything a liberal said like that Minnesota video you just saw. Here's Elon on a video clip talking about exactly this. This DSA, Digital Services Act, is a huge threat, should be on everybody's agenda. Hat tip, by the way, to Congressman Jim Jordan, who's been doing a great job fighting against this stuff, too. Check this out.
Tell which side is the good side and which side is the bad side, by which side wishes to restrict freedom of speech. The side that is restricting freedom of speech, that would have been sort of the Hitler, Stalin, Mussolinis of the world. They had very strong censorship, very strong restrictions on speech. That's one of the signs that they are the bad guys. In fact, a restriction on speech and large government is fundamentally fascist, obviously. So ironically, in pushing for censorship, it makes it very clear that the left is the side that is against freedom, and freedom of speech is simply one of many freedoms that we should have as a civil society. Because ideas should win on the strength of their arguments. They should not win because they are suppressed.
Folks, I know this is fairly obvious, so forgive me and feel free to hit me in the chat for stating the obvious. But if you don't have a bedrock, memorialized, carved into a stone, guaranteed freedom of speech in a country, all of the other big R God-given rights fall apart. Just think about this. Let's walk through just like mechanically, let's walk through the logistics of this. If you did not have the freedom to speak out, I'm not talking about like defamation and threats to people's lives. I'm talking about just, common sense freedom of speech, not violations of the law. Fairly obvious. Everyone knows what they are. If you don't have that, what is the freedom to assemble? Another big R God-given right matter. You can assemble, but you can't say anything? Assemble, but hand over your mouth. What's the point of assembly if you can't say anything? I got the freedom of religion, but I can't actually say anything in the church or the synagogue or the mosque or whatever. You don't have freedom of speech. Nothing else matters. Freedom to petition the government on what? You're not allowed to speak about anything. Freedom of speech is the bedrock to all of this, all of it. You don't have that, everything else falls apart. That's why I thank the Lord, and I don't use his name in vain, for platforms like Rumble every day. And then, X, there's always going to be issues and growing pains, folks. I understand that. But if we didn't have this, who the hell knows where we'd be right now? This country would be a mess. Do you remember the days, guys, ladies, you remember in the chat when you were watching the show early, every day our Facebook page would get some like random left-wing quote fact check. I say quote because it was an opinion check. Do you remember the bans on YouTube? Remember I was banned from YouTube for telling you that masks don't stop COVID? Do you remember that? No apologies, by the way. Folks, we have to play hardball in this era, political hardball. I'm not talking about immoral or unethical things, but political hardball is necessary. These people are not screwing around. They are absolutely, absolutely committed to the aggregation and abuse of power. This is what they do. They will lie, they will cheat, they will steal. They can't stop. They don't care about principles at all. Principles don't mean squat to them. The receipts are everywhere. Here is the new governor of Virginia. I want to put up this tweet. Abigail Spanberger, who, by the way, ran as some kind of faux moderate. We all knew that was total crap. She now gets into office as the governor of Virginia, and they're carving up the state to steal away the voice you have in the Virginia State House, State Senate, and the House of Representatives. You have no voice in Virginia anymore. They were trying to wipe out congressional seats for Republicans in a state that votes between 45 to 48% Republican. You would think 45. Let's go with the minimum. They say it's 45. So roughly 45 to 48% of the seats should be Republican seats, correct? No. They've gerrymandered the place to death. But here was Spanberger in a tweet talking about gerrymandering before she got in office. This is what I'm telling you. People don't give a shit about principles. So this is the good news for Virginia and the country. Gerrymandering is detrimental to our democracy and weakens the individual voices that form our electorates. Opposing gerrymandering should be a bipartisan priority. Really? Thanks, Abs, for saying that. I really appreciate it. The pretty declarative statement, correct? Gerrymandering, bad, really bad. I'm Abigail Spanberger. Vote for me. Here's Abigail Spanberger laughing it up as they sign on to this referendum to carve Virginia into, I believe, a 10-1 Democrat to Republican state, gerrymandering the districts to, here it is, laughing it up. This is great. That's not Guy adding that in. That is, they think this is hilarious. You want to play nice with these people? The Indiana Republicans who refuse to redistrict their state, I don't understand, like, oh, we're doing it from a principle. What principle? What principle, I don't understand, is guiding you? I don't understand what principle is guiding you here. We are going to lose the country if we can't move on this stuff. If they do it, then we should do it. We're never, ever going to win another House of Representatives election if we let every time a Democrat governor gets in the state, they wipe out the entire Republican population of the state or close to it like they're doing in Maryland and Virginia, and then you don't respond. I told you, these Alinsky rules work. You may not have been a good guy, but the rules make a difference. We got Congressman Byron Donalds coming up in a little over 30 minutes. We're going to talk about the SAVE Act. We've got to save our elections. Election integrity matters. If they're going to play hardball with elections, we've got to play hardball too. The thing is, we're on the right side of the moral arc of history. Ladies and gentlemen, large majorities of people, black voters, Hispanic voters, white voters, support voter ID because it's common sense. The Democrats are having a really hard time framing this because it's really tough to BS people on an argument that, hey, when you show up to vote, you should probably prove who you are. It's not complicated. This was making its way around Twitter last week. This was an interview, Kamala Harris, and I only bring it up not to relitigate the Kamala Harris electoral debacle, but because Kamala Harris is back on the scene now. I think she's laying the groundwork for another presidential run. She's delirious enough to believe it. But I don't want you to ever forget the word salad she would put out there, how unfocused and unprincipled she was too. Here she is trying to answer a basic question on voter ID, and pay attention to this ridiculous, preposterous word salad that exits the mouth of Kamala Harris. Check this out.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's. There's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Folks, do you understand how condescending this is? Justin loves this clip. We played this before, remember? You can't find a freaking Kinko's or a FedEx Express because you don't know how to make a photocopy? What is going on? I don't... They can't. She's like, you can't, black, Hispanic, females, they can't possibly understand how to go make a photocopy. How do you accept this? The answer is they don't. Majorities of black, Hispanic voters, female voters, and elsewhere support voter ID because it's common sense. I want you to remember these people are frauds. You saw it with Spanberger. You saw it with Harris. They have zero principles. You saw it on the Donald Trump's a racist. Meanwhile, Minnesota, there's actual racial slurs getting thrown at ice cream. No one's demanding apologies. They have no ethics or principles at all. You're following a scarecrow, man. It's not real. Here's another one here. This is a story that conveniently a lot of left-wing media folks are leaving out of the, rundown list du jour. Did you guys see this Fox report on Ayanna Pressley? She is a far, far left socialist congresswoman who, has said so much crazy stuff. If we put together a portfolio of Presley lunacy, it'd go on forever. You notice how the left-wing media doesn't want to talk about a lot of these public corruption cases? There are a lot of them going on, not just one. They take a while. The judicial process is slow, But outside of conservative media, and you'll see this cut from Fox in a minute, you're not going to hear much about this story, but you will hear. Check this out.
I submit a financial disclosure, just like everybody else. There's nothing to see here. Thank you.
Is it appropriate for members to make so much money when they're in office? Should there be rules there? Financial disclosure reports show that the wealth of Presley and her husband Conan Harris swelled from $12,000 in 2019 to as much as $8 million. 5 rental properties earn them up to $350,000 annually. Presley once advocated to suspend rent during the pandemic. She pushed policies for struggling homeowners.
These little to no cost bills help people remain housed.
Presley's husband is an ex-con who went from serving a decade in jail before they were married for drug trafficking to raking in up to $1 million a year as a business and management consultant.
Wow. That's a ton of money. Justin said it right. Modern day business mogul. Incredible. The mogulism didn't start before you got into office. Folks, that place is a freaking cesspool. Now, everyone, this is a republic, is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Not a tagline. It's how the republic works. For you, for me, for people we agree with, for people we disagree with. I'd rather 20 people, go free than one innocent person convicted. That's how our justice system works. However, the public corruption portfolio, whether it was Bolton, whether it was Newsom's chief of staff, whether it was the New Orleans mayor, whether it was the Kathy Hochul staffer, whether it was Comey, Letitia James, those indictments, is large. Here was another one you probably didn't see that happened over the past year. What happened when I was over there. Here's a DOJ press release on another congresswoman. Again, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. However, folks, these people in D.C., this place is a cesspool. Not every single one of them. Did you put that up, the DOJ one? You guys are in there. What are you doing, playing Star Wars? South Florida congresswoman charged with stealing $5 million in FEMA funds and making illegal campaign contributions. It's funny, I went to D.C., I'm pretty sure I lost money. Everyone else goes to D.C.'s making money. How is that? Donald Trump didn't go to D.C. to make money. I assure you, Elon didn't take on the Doge to make money. Yet all these other Congress people start racking up the mogulism. They become business moguls. Their investment strategy. What is that? There's a Pelosi tracker for stocks or something? You didn't see much of that story, did you, outside of conservative media? Folks, these people are full of crap, man. I'm telling you. And I'm glad the Trump administration is in there to hold a lot of them to account. Another trick they use all the time, I like to give you kind of a take on their tactics as well, because the tactics component of this is important. When you understand their tactics, you see how to intercept that football right away before their bullshit narratives set in, okay? This is the war on language. Don't ever let them do this. This is the way the left wins the argument before it even starts, is they get you to use words like a transitioner. There's no transitioners, okay? You're born a boy or a girl, and that boy turns into a man, and a girl turns into a woman. There is no transition. It's XX or XY, and that's it. There is no transition. When you see the language like gender affirming care, you're not affirming anything. You know what's gender affirming? Chromosomes. That's gender affirming. A penis or a vagina, that is gender affirming. That's gender affirming. There's no gender affirming care other than caring that you're a boy or a girl. Don't let them do it. They do it with stolen elections. They do it with that this guy's a racist and that. Do not let them win this war on language. Redefining fascism to anything Donald Trump does. Never, ever cede the language. Jesse Waters was on Fox talking about this because we've had some small but not insignificant, but small victories on this transition, gender affirming care, euphemism nonsense for this war on basic biology. Now we got to take that football and run with it downfield. But here was Waters on this. It's particularly well said. Check this out.
The American Society of Plastic Surgeons just came out with a huge statement. They now say they recommend that surgeons delay gender-related breast, chest, genital surgeries until the patient is at least 19 years old. I mean, this is groundbreaking. People in Europe, the Norwegians, the Finns, the British, they've all come out and said, we're not going to touch a kid like that until they're at least 18. And these people are now saying there's growing evidence that it's going to backfire and that there is no evidence that someone's going to commit suicide if you don't do this. This suggests a proportion of children with this gender dysphoria, they resolve the issue by the time they grow into adults. Almost all of them resolve the issue if there's no medical intervention and you just do nothing. And so do no harm, that's the cornerstone of the medical community. That's where it should remain.
Well said. I got Congressman Byron Donalds coming up in a little less than 30 minutes. We will be chatting. He's running for governor in the great state of Florida, my home state. I've known Byron a long time. He's doing great in the race. But we're going to address the SAVE Act. We're going to address, just quickly, Sad Bunny. I don't want to spend the whole day on it. Like I said, I mean, I know a lot of people are going to go wall to wall on Super Bowl stuff today. I got a lot of stuff to get out. The DSA, the Trump video, all this stuff is really, really critical. Also, this weekend, as I commented on, you probably saw on X, I was out this weekend. I was at a volleyball game with my daughter. And just quickly, thank you to all the parents out there who volunteer as coaches. I watched all these folks out there. You ever go to a volleyball tournament, you better bring earplugs because it's really, really loud with all the whistles and everything like that. So we go pretty much every weekend with my daughter. And watching all these parents volunteer as coaches, they were there for 8 hours. It was a really long day out there. It's amazing. You guys and ladies out there who do it are just phenomenal. So a big hat tip to you. But I got into it this weekend with a couple of people because I'm getting tired of their bullshit, lying about what happened with my fight for transparency in the Epstein case. You're full of shit and you know it. I am beyond satisfied that now a lot of these case files are out there. And you putting out the emails and then totally mischaracterizing what they say. I'm glad I have a smart audience. I can read the emails themselves and see right through it. My first day on the job was March 17th? It was my first day. You swear in, raise your right hand. One of the first things I got to on the first, because it was a priority for me, which, by the way, I want to thank, Susie Wiles for saying in her Vanity Fair interview as well. Throw that up there. This is from New York Post coverage of it. According to Wiles, the people that really appreciate what a big deal this is are FBI Director Patel and his deputy, Dan Bongino. It was such a priority that the first day I said to everybody involved, send me whatever you've done so far on this. And you can see it. There's no commentary by me, but they're forwarding this stuff to me because I was demanding right away to see what had been done. To have a bunch of just zeros. I mean, some of who are named in there, and a bunch of total life losers, a Bernie donor and others, totally mischaracterized that, was just peak liberal bullshit. What do you think? Susie's lying? You think others are lying about it? The first thing I did when I got in there was start to advocate for transparency and truth on this stuff so you all could see it, and I'm glad you can. Folks, we had hundreds of people from day one working on this. Hundreds. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you just a quick story. I'll make it fast because I don't want to make, again, this show, hey, look at me, the past year kind of stuff. I don't know. I'd been there about 2 months or so. You can look it up, the journal article yourself. There was a Wall Street Journal article out there, and it was about how we had hundreds of people working on this case. the Epstein case, to get this stuff ready and prepared. The redaction decisions were not made by us. They're made by career lawyers based on precedent and law. But we had hundreds of people working on this, and I'm sitting in the conference room. It's this big conference room, right? I told you, it looked like a Netflix thing, like screens in the back and world clocks and stuff. It's old, though. And I'm on a secure video conference with an agent in Albuquerque, and we're talking about, sorry, but it was pretty devastating stuff. We were trying to figure out a way to increase the FBI's role in getting violent felons off the street because there's no federal murder charge. So I don't want to get off on a tangent, but we were talking about, and one of the cases she was telling me about, I know she remembers this because I do too, was this horrible story of this 11-year-old girl in their AOR, area of responsibility. I think it was a stepfather, was abusing this girl really bad. And we were trying to find an FBI federal jurisdiction in, and we were going to do the case anyway and help with it, but we were trying to find a way to kind of paper it and make sure we could get involved with this and make sure everything was going to be good. I'm getting kind of like emotional over this case because it's really hard to hear about. I know she remembers it. And someone comes barging in and says, hey, Wall Street Journal is looking for a comment about the hundreds of people you guys have working on this. What I'm trying to tell you is the Epstein case, anyone telling you out there we didn't care about it is absolutely bullshitting you. And I'm elated that you can now start to read this stuff yourself. There's a lot of smear merchants out there. They're totally full of shit. Thought I wasn't going to come back and tell you the real story. Well, now you have it, and you can read this stuff yourself. I wanted to play this video. I saw this weekend on the way back. So I was in this little back and forth with some of these folks. When I was fighting this fight, I didn't hear from them at all. Here's a video by Jordan Peterson talking about some of these grifters and smear merchants and how, listen, we love social media. I said in the beginning of the show, the fragmentation of media has had innumerable benefits for freedom of speech and elsewhere. But it also enables people to talk a lot of smack, and that's fine. Talk smack all you want. I get to correct the record here. But Peterson had a really interesting approach to this. Check this out.
The psychopathic types, they're always the death of everything. Like I'm seeing this come up on the right now. They are also sadistic. They can play power games to enhance their reputational status falsely with no consequences. And the social media is rife with that. And it's really a problem. Like, I think that virtualization has enabled the psychopaths. All they're doing is they're the Pharisees. They're the modern version of the Pharisees. They're the people who use God's name in vain, right? As they proclaim moral virtue. Yes. Doesn't matter whether it's right or left or Christian or Jewish or Islam. They invade the idea space, and then they use those ideas as false weapons to advance their narcissistic advantage. Yes. How do you identify the psychopathic parasites, 4% of the population, who are clothed in your clothing and waving your flags, but who are only in it for narcissistic benefits? Are Machiavellian. They use their language to manipulate. They're narcissistic. They want unearned reputation. That's what a narcissist wants. And they're psychopathic, which makes them predators or parasites. You develop a sufficiently bad view of your fellow man that their undeserved pain is a source of pleasure to you.
Hat tip, obviously, Joe Rogan Experience and Bren 450030. Got a hat tip for the jump cuts on that. I seek no one else's pain in this, but I know others derive their pleasure from that. You didn't do shit. The people throwing bombs out there, I didn't hear anything from you. All right, moving on. And we'll cover this as time goes on. I mean, the nice part about being back on the air is you get your voice back. Again, when you're inside a government, it's not about you. If you ever take a position inside any administration, state, local, tribal, territorial, federal, it's not about you. You're appointed by others to do a job. So now that I'm back it's obviously a lot easier to correct the record for a lot of these smear merchants out there. Want nothing more than for you to panic, freak out. They are dying to suppress turnout before the election. You see it everywhere. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Matter of fact, President Trump, this was an older True Social post, but they sent it out again last week about panicking and all this stuff. We have an election coming up. There are a lot of great things happening. Can we do things better? We can always do things better. But he says the U.S. has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. Don't be weak. Don't be stupid. Don't be a panicking. A new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. He put that out again last week. Folks, the administration is doing incredible things. And there are a lot of unsung heroes inside the administration. Most of them I dealt with at some point. Some I had a lot of dealings with. Obviously, folks over at the agency and elsewhere where you're dealing with law enforcement and terrorism. But the budget's always a big deal too. There is a real rock star in the administration. I know I talked about Scott Bessent last week, but I'm trying to highlight some of the good stuff going on that isn't just the headline folks. The president, the vice president, Senator, Secretary of State Rubio, we give them a ton of coverage. Obviously, they're the bigwigs. But there are other folks doing amazing things. The president has a really good eye for people. One of them you may not hear a lot about, but you should, is Russ Vought. Russ Vaught's been doing an amazing job over at OMB. No one, folks, no one in the last 20 years, no one has had the vision to finally get a hold of the federal budget and spending like this guy. I'm telling you, when we were over there working with him, he was very fair, but he was very stern. Dan Bishop was over there a little bit as his deputy. I dealt with him a lot. If you're going to come to them for money on anything in OMB and they're going to push for it, you better damn well defend it. There was a piece in the Wall Street Journal by Kim Strassel about how Vought is bending the curve. Now, again, keep that up a second, guys. It's a slow roll. I get it. We're not going to balance the budget overnight. I wish we could, but the math there is really hard given the whole, both Republicans and Democrats have dug. But the budget agency today, she notes, points to more than $13 trillion in improvements. That's not small numbers. It estimates $2 trillion in 10-year savings on programs like Medicaid, student loans, and food stamps, tax reforms, spurring growth to 3% a year. With lower interest rates, reduces deficits $5.6 trillion. Trump tariffs tallied some $290 billion, which would erase another $4 trillion, toss in $1.8 trillion in lower debt service payments. Folks, again, I'm here to give you the truth, not a bunch of BS. However, these are not insignificant savings. These are real savings. Vaught's doing an amazing job over there. You see this tweet by, was that Eric Daughtry too, on what Russ Vaught's doing? This is real stuff, real savings over time. We keep bending the curve down. I'm going to address this with Congressman Byron Donalds coming up in a minute. We keep bending the curve, and then we build our productivity and numbers out through AI, material sciences, hopefully a cure for cancer with CRISPR and all this gene technology coming up. All of a sudden, we start outgrowing our debt. This is breaking. President Trump just slashed $1.5 billion in health and transportation funds from blue states. OMB Director Russ Vought confirms. A lot of unsung heroes here. I'm going to get to that interview in a second, but I want to play one last clip for you. I know I played the Oprah thing in the beginning, and listen, to be fair and kind of critique myself, I've said often, and I mean it, I don't really care what celebrities have to say about politics. I'm sorry, I don't. Once in a while, I'll play these clips because Donald Trump has been the same guy forever. I played the clip from Oprah in the beginning. Nothing has changed. He has been the same guy for a long time. And it's good to play these clips once in a while, especially for the liberals who listen to my show and try to jump in the chat and terrorize everyone in the chat. He has never changed. He has always been about business. One of the things I've told you is growing up in Queens, not too far from where Donald Trump grew up. I've tried to explain what I believe to be the genesis of the Trump spreadsheets personality. How are you a net present value for the country right now? Donald Trump grew up in Queens where I did. Queens kids, we got this interesting thing, right? We're not the Brooklyn kids. The Brooklyn kids, if you grow up in Brooklyn or the Bronx, you're always assumed to be a tough guy, even if you're not, no matter what. Like, kids from Brooklyn, you're like, oh my gosh, don't mess with that guy. It was just like an aura with the Brooklyn and the Bronx kids, right? Queens was more of kind of a suburban place, little more, some wealthier neighborhoods, a lot of middle-class neighborhoods in Queens, right? It was like a working-class town. And then the Manhattan kids had all the money. So they had all the prestige, but not the tough guy stuff, the Manhattan kids, and the Brooklyn and Bronx kids had all, hey, they were built-in tough guys, so to say. So the Queens kids always had a chip on their shoulder. Always. And they speak in a lot of bravado. If you grew up in Queens, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Donald Trump has never changed. He's a transactional guy. He talks like a guy from Queens, like a kid from Queens. Here's Mike Tyson on Fox with Jesse Waters talking about the Donald Trump he knew when Donald Trump made some really incredible decisions about building the Atlantic City sports environment, both with UFC and boxing. Check this out.
You have a great relationship with President Trump. You guys have known each other since the 80s. You've been at Bedminster. You're just at Mar-a-Lago. How is the president doing?
He looks beautiful, happy, functional. He's enjoying the people. I can't even explain his mood. He's just, we never seen any president like this before. And not in your lifetime, nor in mine.
That's for sure. That's definitely for sure. When you guys used to hang out back in the day, any funny stories you want to tell us?
Nah, he was just a businessman and he ran his business right. And that was just a great idea when he decided to have me fight in Atlantic City. Because I never thought that Atlantic City would ever be. I just didn't like Atlantic City back there. I just wasn't an Atlantic City person. And he made me an Atlantic City person. I even moved there one time. I lived there for a few years.
And you made a lot of money in Atlantic City. And he did too.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. But listen, my whole experience with President Trump is that he's just a genuine, real person. If he got your back, he's with you 100%.
Yeah, he's a loyal guy. That's
my experience with him. That's my experience with him, yeah. That's why I'm for him 100% because he's never been nothing but for me.
Likewise. I'm going to tell you something I didn't say a week ago when we started the show. The president volunteered to come on the show on Monday. He actually surprised me. He surprised me. I got a notification. Guy, am I messing with you? No, right? Remember I came in, I said, you know this person? And Guy's like, yeah. I wasn't talking about the president. Someone reached out I wasn't familiar with. And Guy's like, oh yeah, I deal with them all the time. He volunteered. He's just that kind of guy. He takes care of his people. And that's why he's built just this ferocious loyalty to him. He has never changed. He's never been different. I love you all in the chat. Also, Barn Evil in the chat. I actually stopped the chat for a second on my phone here. Glendale, I guess you know I'm from Glendale. I probably said it 1,000 times. I'm from Glendale, Queens. Barn Evil, I guess you may be too. And Joannie says, absolutely, Queens girl here, know exactly what you're talking about. If you're from Queens, that's how everyone from Queens is. All right, I'm going to take a short break. And you all know Byron Donalds. He's an amazing congressman from Florida. He's running for governor. We're going to have guests on the show 3-4 days a week, 2-3 days a week, depending on the news cycle, what's going on. We're not going to do a ton of guest segments, but when we have newsmakers out there, I think it's really important that we have them on the show. Our last break, and then we'll get to Congressman Byron Donalds standing by. If you're like me, you become totally desensitized to all the phone notifications we get every single day. A lot of them are random alerts. You swipe away without thinking, but if that latest ping is from your security cameras, ignoring it could spell disaster. Imagine someone breaking in while you're in a meeting at work, sitting in a movie theater, or you're flying at 30,000 feet. You'll see the footage eventually, but then it's too far or too late to do anything about it. I take my security very seriously. Sometimes I wish I didn't have to, but we do, and you should too. Producer Jim just recently followed my advice, and he signed up with SimpliSafe. It's a customizable whole home security system backed by 24/7 monitoring agents you can rely on to act even when you can't. SimpliSafe's Active Guard outdoor protection helps prevent break-ins before they happen. And unlike other companies, SimpliSafe has no long-term contracts. They earn your trust day after day. They're really confident in their protection. They even offer an anti-theft guarantee. Right now, my listeners can get 50% off. 50% off their new SimpliSafe system. It's Simply with an I, by the way, at simplisafe.com/Dan Bongino. That's SIMPLI. SimpliSafe.com/Dan Bongino. SimpliSafe.com/Dan Bongino. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Thank you, SimpliSafe. We appreciate it. Now, Welcoming to the Dan Bongino Show today, our second guest after President Trump, a guy I have been fond of for a really long time. I've known him for, it seems like eons now. A Florida congressman, now gubernatorial candidate in my home state of Florida. Guy's been kicking ass and taking names for a long time. Congressman Byron Donalds, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, Dan, it's good to be on with you, man. Welcome back, man. Welcome back to the airwaves. We missed you out there.
Thank you, sir. It's good to be back. Was an eventful year. Obviously, you're up in D.C. as a member of Congress. You see a lot of this stuff going on. D.C. is a fast and furious town. There's no time for messing around. But just before we get to some real, some heavy stuff here, your just general thoughts last night. I think a cultural revolution happened last night with TPUSA Turning Point, blowing away expectations with a halftime show, a pro-America halftime show. Congressman, this is, as I said in the beginning of my show today, this is the first time someone's actually beaten the NFL at the culture game.
Yeah, that's never happened before. Like, I watched a lot of the TPUSA halftime show. Really good. The artists were great. Kid Rock, as usual, always does a great job. I think most people just want to, they just want to take in something that makes them feel good about America, feel good about the country, and I think with respect to what happened with Bad Bunny, I think if he, just was more focused on, before this whole thing became about, if he was more focused on just America and us being a great nation, I don't think he would have had a lot of the pushback. But that being said, TPUSA, they did a great job. The game was far more interesting to me than any halftime show. I gotta be honest with you. The game was really interesting. Congrats to the Seahawks and that defense, that front four. My goodness.
And it was something to behold. I mean, the game wasn't the most exciting game I've ever seen. I got to watch it for the show. I haven't been that into the NFL over past years. I wish they'd cut all this crap, but I get it. Let's get to some serious stuff. You're running for governor. First, I don't want to forget. If people want the opportunity to support you, the website for governor is?
ByronDonalds.com. Very simple.
Check it out.
ByronDonalds.com.
Folks, I've been a big fan of Byron Donalds for a long time. Can't say enough positive things about him. The SAVE Act. Election integrity, I know is important to you, critically important to me. It's been an issue. Florida, however, you have a unique experience. You were a state rep in Florida for a long time, and Florida does a great job with elections, even though, Congressman, we have a lot of mail-in balloting. We have an older population in pockets of Florida. That's obvious. It's been that way. A lot of people come down here, understandably, to retire and things. Mail-in balloting in Florida is not new. Yet fraud in Florida isn't non-existent. There's fraud everywhere, but it's very rare. Florida's managed to figure this out. With the SAVE Act nationally, why is it at the federal level that there's such objections to the Democrats to free and fair elections with a modicum of integrity? I think we both know the answer.
No, because Democrats in their jurisdiction, they have very loose rules that allow for open-ended cheating and fraud to take place. Let's be very clear. In Florida, when I was in the State House, I think we went through two versions of our election law. We did two updates. And our election law in Florida is based around treating every ballot as if it was evidence in a trial. That's how we treat our ballots here. Everything is very secure. You have to request your absentee ballots. It used to be you could request it for 3 election cycles, the next 3 cycles. Now you have to request it for every election cycle. They have to be signed. Your signature has to match. We go through a very detailed protocol here in Florida. Compare that to places like California, Oregon, which does complete universal mail-outs. They just send everybody that's on the roll of absentee ballot. And you could just imagine how fraudulent that could become because they never clean these rolls. And then you have the whole ballot tabulating process. So what we're trying to do federally with the Save America Act is 2 very simple things. Number one, that there has to be voter ID when you cast a ballot in America. You have to prove that you are who you say you are. Just like when you get on a plane, just like when you check into a hotel, just like when you get a bank account. Very simple stuff. The second piece is verification that you're an American citizen when you register to vote. Like, this is very common sense stuff. And I think this is why you see every demographic group, every political affiliation supporting this by 80%. The problem is the Democrats know that with voter ID and people having to verify that they're an American citizen, they're going to run into major problems in blue states like Illinois, like Oregon, like Washington State, like California, etc. It's not going to have much impact at all in Florida or Texas or Georgia because we do the right thing when it comes to elections. But in these blue states, which have become deep blue states, the Democrats are going to have serious problems, and they know this.
Congressman, one follow-up on this. The problem with mail-in balloting, and we've been covering this on this show for a really long time, even the New York Times back in 2012, and I encourage my listeners to always look up this article. It's by Adam Liptak. Back in 2012, when mail-in balloting was largely military and retired folks, which tend to lean conservative and Republican, the New York Times wrote a big, expose about how dangerous mail-in balloting is because it has double the rejection rate. So it was interesting how they changed their minds once mail-in balloting they thought worked for them. However, mail-in balloting can be done safely. But like you just said, if it's a mass mail-out, like in Oregon or other states where they're just sending ballots out, California and elsewhere, you have no idea who's returning this ballot. Come on, signature. There it is. There's the article on the screen now. Congressman, it is almost impossible on election night for them to go through every single one with a magnifying glass. And if you just had basic voter ID, it would shut a lot of this stuff down right away and would make it real. You can do this safely and effectively with some of the restrictions in the SAVE Act.
Yeah, 100% you could. I'll give you another one on California. So under federal law, actually, here's how it works in California. When their ballots come back absentee, they go through the post office. They just show up. But California's law says that no ballots are allowed to be counted once the polls close. But the ballots, as they go through the postal service, aren't postmarked. So what happens is, because they're metered ballots, metered envelopes. So what happens is they just end up at the supervisor of elections in California. Because they're not postmarked, they just keep counting the ballots regardless of the time that they showed up at the voting precinct, because they have no way of determining when those ballots were mailed. So I had a piece of legislation last Congress that said for every federal election, all mail-in ballots have to be postmarked. So that way they couldn't take in ballots after the election was over. Democrats don't want to do simple things like that. There's a bunch of little rules that some of these blue states have opened up to make it far more questionable about the outcomes of these elections. And so what we're trying to do is start to put a stop to that. It's about protecting the American franchise. It's about protecting the sanctity of the American vote so that the will of the American people is actually being delivered in our elections, whether that's Washington, D.C. or at any state level.
Yeah, seems like pretty basic stuff. Moving on, I wanted to ask you about this cultural revolution we're having in this country. We saw it obviously last night with the Turning Point success. We already addressed that. However, the Maha Revolution, the Make America Healthy Again. I know you like hitting the steel weights. I don't know if I do it so well anymore at 51 as I'm falling apart, but I try. It's the thought that counts. But this is a really big, growing portion of the population. They vote, they're politically active, and it's kind of a strange bleed over. Like you never really saw like the biohacker community and the political community, usually separate kind of things. Not anymore. It's a very powerful political movement in this country. Bobby Kennedy, obviously, being a big part of that as well. You being up there in D.C., dealing with constituents all the time. I bet you're seeing some of this too. There's a lot of political power in this, in the biohacking community and all of that.
No, it's serious business. And really, it's about health overall. I think there are a lot of Americans, whether you're in the Maha movement or not, kind of feel like they've been lied to. The medical establishment is more focused on testing and pharmaceuticals than it is on wellness. Know all the additives that are in food, which are causing many health issues. Even moms concerned about autism rates for their children in the United States. It's where you get to more when you start talking about vaccines. I think that you have a lot of Americans, especially in the Maha movement, who are dead serious about wanting to make sure that the food that we take in, the vaccines or the shots that are available, and even how our healthcare system works is about us being well and healthy human beings and wealthy and healthy Americans, as opposed to just being a register and a piggy bank for the medical establishment and for large processed food manufacturing. And there's a lot of people who are correct on this. Look, a simple thing in your diet, if you're eating just healthy, lean meats, whether that's beef, chicken, fish, or you're having vegetables, and you're not dealing with a lot of processed chips and all these processed foods, just walking around day by day, you feel healthier. Your mind is clearer, you have more energy, it's more consistent. Layer that in over several months, several years. And so this is why the MAHA movement is a serious one. It's not going anywhere. I think even if you look at what Governor DeSantis and Casey DeSantis are doing right now, they're testing various food products for excessive additives and other items like that, and really bringing to light what is in the food that we're consuming. I think it starts with food and it goes from there. But this is a serious political movement, to your point, and I think it's really centered around wellness, number one, parental consent and informed consent, number two, so that we can protect our children over the long term.
Yeah, I agree. That's a great analysis of it. I know when you're out there dealing with constituents, you see a lot of this, and you're getting a lot of this feedback at town halls and elsewhere as well. You have a financial background before you actually had a real job, unlike some other folks in the political space who've never had real jobs. You understand finance as well as anyone up on the Hill. I'm a huge fan of these Trump accounts. I think this is a fantastic idea. Politicians in Washington, D.C. have bankrupted Americans on Social Security. You've spoken out about this. I used to play that debate you had on TV all the time before I left to go to the Bureau. You understand that, listen, I think we both agree. The bankruptcy of Social Security is not the American citizens' fault, okay? They gave the government money to manage for them, which the government promptly flushed down a toilet bowl and gave a bunch of IOUs. Those are just facts. I'm very sorry that happened, but it did happen. Now we've got to fix it. The Trump accounts are brilliant for two reasons. Number one, it gets the money out of the hands of greedy government officials who will spend it. But second, it teaches a lesson you and I both learned early, whether me in business school or you in the finance space. The magic, Congressman, of compounding interest in the free market capitalist system. Your take on the Trump accounts?
Look, I think it's a wonderful concept, something that's going to start, young kids in our country with an ability to really just earn money for their future. I mean, it's a novel concept. You said it, compound interest. It is the eighth wonder of the world. And I believe what it's going to teach young Americans is that as you continue to put money away and you watch those accounts grow, it actually will encourage savings. It encourages thinking about the long term. When you talk Social Security, the one thing that the Democrats in particular refuse to acknowledge is that Social Security is going insolvent. It goes insolvent now, Dan, in about 7-8 years. That's just the way it is. And so for young Americans today and into the future, we are going to have to think about what is going to be their plan, what's going to help them prepare for retirement. Trump accounts is the start of that conversation. And I think this is something where in Florida and other states, we're going to be looking for ways, for states to continue to add on to that to help these group of young people, these newborns in America, not just this fiscal year, but the next two, to be able to begin to put aside and have a retirement for their futures. And starting as young as you can is critical to this. When I had kids who I would mentor when they were, when I was still a youth leader of my church, we would tell them sometimes, when the second you get a job, learn to live on 80% of your money. And this is what we would teach them. Learn to live on 80% of your money. The first 10 is to God. That's the tithe to God. The second 10 is for your future. Tithe to yourself. Put that in a retirement account, sock it away. Don't even think about it, because you're trying to start out at 22 years old. You're working, you're starting to put money away. You should really start looking at that money around 50 years old. So you want to get into the habit of not spending every dollar you make. You want to be able to, that first 10 goes to God, the second 10 goes to you. You live on the 80%. And that's a healthy fiscal principle, that would just mean so much for so many people. And look, Dan, I'll add, I've seen it when you have consistent savers who start saving the second they start their working careers, and they just are consistent year over year over year. When they retire, they might have $1 million to $1.5 million, $5 million, depending on what their earnings were over their life. And that's something that's far better than Social Security, will always be far better than Social Security. And that's why President Trump and the Trump accounts is a major step to teach fiscal accountability and fiscal responsibility to young Americans as they're starting to age and get a little bit more mature, have a job, start adding some more. Hopefully states can play a part of this. Parents can contribute to it as well. And it'll be a meaningful thing for these young people.
Congressman, last question. I know you're busy. You're again, running for governor. You've work to do up in D.C. You're wearing multiple hats right now. I've been a supporter for a while. We've had great leadership here between Rick Scott and Ron DeSantis. The state is just in really incredible shape. Matter of fact, a lot of people tell me, stop talking about how great the state is. Everybody keeps moving down here. I'm sorry, folks. It's really hard. I just genuinely love this place. I'm not native here. I lived in New York. I lived in Maryland. But I've been down here 10 years, and I really love it. You have been in both the State House and in Congress. So there's no one better positioned to understand Florida's role as Florida and in the United States of America. You've been very honest with people, a lot of retirees in Florida, about Social Security. You've never said we're going to hang anybody out to dry. We are not going to do that, but you're honest about the problems we need to fix. That gets to my question. This AI revolution, quantum computing, small nuclear reactors that they're putting together right now, the natural gas hydrofracking revolution, material sciences blowing up right now, cancer research and CRISPR. President Trump's focus on deregulating the red tape in the economy, on the BBB, the big beautiful bill, which solidified those tax cuts for working Americans out there. I believe, and I don't say this, that I get it. I'm a Republican. I don't pretend to be fully objective on it, but I'm trying. I think we are on the verge, on the cusp of a real new industrial revolution and golden age of the economy where we can grow out of these problems with just a modicum of fiscal response, but just a little bit. I wish we'd have more sanity, but just a little bit. The productivity numbers, the GDP numbers, I really believe we're on the cusp of something magical happening in the next 5 to 10 years.
I agree. And look, let's take the first part of that, AI and quantum computing. Listen, AI, I think when people think about it, they're thinking ChatGPT or Gemini or Grok. There are far more large language models than that. They're really in every aspect of business in the United States already. Anybody with a cell phone today, if you did the last update, you have some AI module in your cell phone. And so what it's going to do, if we leverage it appropriately, it's going to make the economy far more efficient. It's actually going to leverage the productivity of American workers, so they're far more efficient and can actually do a lot more tasks. I know the concerns about displacement, but with every change in our economy, there are always concerns about displacement. That's why we are a free market capitalist economy, because the creative destruction of the market system actually leads to future job opportunities. I think the key thing for Florida and really for the country is how do we leverage the new technological wave to make government more efficient? So much of our cost structure, Dan, is because you have some government bureaucrat who takes forever to get back to you, whether that's building a home, which raises the prices of building homes, building roads, which raises the prices of building roads. And those additional costs, they're not borne by the contractor. They're not borne by the developer. They're borne by the citizen. They're borne by the American. So I think the next wave of Florida's government is about leveraging AI to be incredibly efficient with the time of the people of Florida. You're looking to go build a new home. Right now, it takes 2 years to put a shovel in the ground. We can actually leverage technology to completely speed up that timeline so you can decrease the cost of building new homes, something that matters for young people in our country, something that matters even for seniors who might be trying to leave a house and move into something smaller. So you have to deal with that. I think if you're talking about the next wave of our economy in Florida, because of Kennedy Space Center, we are the major space hub, which means there's going to be more manufacturing jobs, more tech jobs in our state. We're going to have more finance jobs because finance is starting to relocate to Florida. I think we're going to be the financial hub in a decade. And so Florida in particular, we really have a golden opportunity to prepare for the next 30 years of growth. Like you said, Governor DeSantis has done a tremendous job for our state. His leadership during COVID-19, his leadership when it comes to the culture wars has been critical for Florida. Now we're going to take that foundation, maintain that, and then prepare for the future wave of Florida's economy and how to be more efficient with people's time so we can decrease costs on things like building homes and building roads so you can preserve the Florida that you love while also preparing for Florida's future. And I think that's going to be critical for the job of the next governor. You talk about my experience, not just 17 years in the financial industry, but having served at the state level and at the federal level. I'm very aware in detail of the issues in Washington, D.C., and making sure that we have policies in Florida that can kind of protect Florida from the federal mess that is just unfortunately there. President Trump's doing everything he can to unwind that, but there's a big federal mess up there. So Florida's got to prepare for its future. And I'm the candidate as the state's next governor who's prepared to do that, to make sure that, look, when I'm 77, long past my time as being governor of Florida. I want Florida to still be the best state in America. That's the mission. That's the goal. That's why I'm running. And that's why I'm looking for everybody's support and vote in Florida.
Your website again, Congressman?
ByronDonalds.com. X is Byron Donalds. Instagram's at Byron Donalds. We keep it pretty simple around here.
Goodness, smart. I have Bongino.com. Same. People have these big, long websites. People for a better, prosperous. Yeah, Byron Donalds like be easy, super easy. Congressman, I wish you nothing but the best. I know what's in your heart. You're a good, solid man. You've been a friend to me, all my listeners and supporters for a very long time. We hope to have you back, obviously before the election, and best of luck to you.
Listen, thanks, Dan. Good to have you back, man. You have no idea how much we missed you out here. Thank you, brother. Thank you for what you did serving with the president. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Folks, that was Congressman Byron Donalds, a really good man. I have a lot of experience with the congressman. I had run in the district over there, and I know the district really well. They absolutely love him over there on the west coast of Florida. He's an amazing guy, was an amazing state rep. He's been an incredible congressman, so good luck with that. I really appreciate you all tuning into the show today. Another fantastic, huge audience. Again, a big thank you. 8 million views last week on Rumble, trending #1 on Spotify for 7 straight days now. I so deeply appreciate the support. I will never, ever take you guys for granted. Thank you for seeing through a lot of the BS too, and just allowing me to keep that lodestar of truth in there. That's what matters. Are we going to be a movement guided by truth or not? Make sure you tune in to Haley Karania coming up next at noon, rumble.com/Haley, Hayley. As she always says, double the Y, double the fun. And then don't miss Vince Colonnese. He had a huge jump this week on Spotify. And he's doing great on Rumble at 8 a.m. every single day, rumble.com/Vince. And please don't forget, follow and subscribe to our show. It is absolutely free. Just go to any browser, go to rumble.com/Bongino, or just download the Rumble app and just click subscribe just like that. We added, I think, 20-something thousand people in the last couple of weeks or so alone. So we really, really appreciate your support. Rumble.com/Bongino. I will see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, live on the Dan Bongino Show. Thanks a lot.
Hey there, I'm Vince.
I'm Haley Karania,
Host of Vince.
host of Scrolling with Haley.
You can always catch my show right here
on the Bongino Report channel.
Live, 8 a.m. Eastern, weekday mornings.
Noon weekdays. And if you miss it, no worries. The show will always be right here and anywhere you find a podcast. Thanks for watching.